Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Psycho Sexy Seance. I'm your host, the Empress Red. Today's episode is the first in a series dedicated to a deeper understanding of mental health issues and personality disorders. Now that the mainstream public is beginning to hear a lot of these terms being thrown around, it's imperative that we start doing our part in getting accurate information out into the universe. So, with me today are Dr. Lady, say hi,
Hello.
and Dr. BeReal, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, ladies. They'll be here defining and discussing our topic today, which is narcissistic personality disorder. I thought we would get off to a strong start with that one. First of all, let's discuss your credentials and experience, and then we'll dive into the meat and potatoes of what MPD is.
Okay, so first of all, public disclosure, I am not a doctor. I just play one on TV. Um, Currently, I have approximately 20 years of combined experience working in mental health, between mental health and education, both in practical application as well as in my educational pursuits. I do have multiple psychology degrees with an emphasis in behavioral management, and I am currently on a break from pursuing my master's degree in clinical counseling, but I will be going back to complete that and likely will move forward into completing a PhD at some point as well. Um, so I do have extensive experience in mental health and in psychology specifically.
And how long have you been working in the mental health circuit?
Mental health specifically, about
Yeah.
14, 15 years
Okay.
total. Mhm.
Okay. And Dr. Be Real, how about you?
So I actually started early in my career. When I was 18, I did an internship at parole and probation,
hmm
and I got to see a lot of individuals who needed help and they were just shoveled through the system. And from there, I kind of decided that I wanted to work in mental health.
hmm
So I have been working in mental health since I want to say 2018. I started as a substance abuse counselor and then transitioned. I'm currently almost finished with my MSW, which I'm hoping to turn into a licensed clinical social work license
Excellent.
soon.
Okay.
And yeah, I've been doing this for a while and it's very interesting to me. I'm a qualified mental health associate. So my services are billable through Medicaid.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you guys so much for being on the show today. I definitely appreciate your presence here. I know that these are topics we discuss a lot, and I've learned a lot from both of you. So ladies, as you know, it's important to first define the difference between a mental health issue and an actual personality disorder. So, can you guys maybe give us an idea about some of the difference, how they different, how they differ?
Yeah, mental health disorders are more of a broad term. It covers a wide range of conditions such as depression and anxiety, which can be
hmm
episodic, which
hmm
basically means they come in waves, right? So you have episodes of anxiety and depression. It's not necessarily, you're not in a constant state of anxiety.
hmm
And
Okay.
whereas personality disorders are pervasive, which basically means it exists in every part of something.
Mm,
Personality disorders typically begin in adolescent or early adulthood.
mm, mm. Okay. Is there like an average age that it tends to manifest?
They usually become noticeable in adolescence, but a lot of these behaviors are typical of adolescence. They just don't seem to grow out of them as they mature into adulthood.
Mm,
Um, the major difference between a personality disorder and a mental health disorder is that personality disorders are more behavioral than they are, say, like right?
Hmm.
With a personality disorder, medication isn't going to fix that behavioral issue. Okay.
Mm,
So when you
okay.
have an anxiety disorder, right, that's kind of uncontrollable. Yes, to a degree, you might be able to use some self-soothing coping mechanisms to kind of lessen your anxiety, but it's not
Hmm.
going to be as effective as an anxiety medication, right?
Right.
But when
Right.
you have a personality disorder, a medication isn't going to remedy that core behavior. For that, you
Interesting.
need intensive psychotherapy and different therapies to learn how to mitigate those behaviors.
Okay. Okay.
So that's
Um,
where the basic difference between a personality disorder and a mental health disorder is.
okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that about the medication thing. So that's really good information.
Yeah.
So
And
now that
not
we've talked about, oh, sorry. What were you
Sorry,
saying?
and not to say that you won't take medication with a personality
Mm,
disorder. I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but you
right.
can often have comorbidity. So you'll have a personality disorder with an additional mental health disorder. So you may be taking medication for the additional mental health disorder. So you can have a personality disorder with anxiety or depression or bipolar
Right.
on top of
So,
it.
but that's only going to help with the symptoms. It doesn't help with the actual behavioral things. Those are things that you have to work with actual cognitive therapy with, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So, NPD, we're talking about NPD today. So, now that we've talked about kind of the differences, we are getting into the actual personality disorder. So, what exactly is NPD, narcissistic personality disorder? Why are we hearing about it so much now, as opposed to other disorders? And how can we learn to spot it better, in an accurate way so we're not just slinging the word around recklessly?
Well, first of all, we hear a lot about it because it's been sensationalized, right?
Right.
So everybody and their mother is now a narcissist. You know, a
Hmm.
man treats you wrong and he's a narcissist. A woman treats you wrong and she's a narcissist, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's just such a popular term now that we're just throwing it around. Actually, narcissism is very rare.
Hmm.
It's very rare.
Hmm.
Personality disorders in total make up 10% of mental health disorders, and that's all personality disorders
Okay.
combined.
Oh.
So yeah, okay,
So
so
true narcissism, you know, is not it's not something that you're going to find or even come across. I mean, I've never come across anyone who's diagnosed with narcissism, truly.
yeah,
Diagnosed? I mean, that's a fun word when you're thinking of diagnosed because there are so many narcissists who are true narcissists that aren't getting the diagnosis.
because
You know, they don't think they need it.
but a true diagnosis requires so many um, characteristics to receive that,
Right.
right? So there's 9
Hmm.
criteria to diagnose
Hmm.
narcissism, and you need a minimum of 5 of them, and they need to be
Right.
pervasive and consistent because everyone has narcissistic traits, but they're not
Hmm.
pervasive and consistent traits. We're all humans, we
Right.
all display them from time to time. It's when they're a continual habitual pattern of behavior. It's an
Right.
established pattern of behavior that it's an issue.
Yeah, I
Do you want
guess
to
what
go?
I was getting at was that people who do tend to fall under this often have this idea that they don't need the therapy, so they don't seek it out. So how can you get a diagnosis if they're not willing to seek it out to begin with?
Well, first of all, Dr. Lady, will you go over the criteria for?
Yeah.
Absolutely. For sure. So, and this is straight from the DSM-5 because I don't play around with these random websites that love to just give you whatever.
Hmm.
So the 9 criteria is has a grandiose sense of self-importance. And an example of this is exaggerating achievements, their talents, and needs to be recognized as superior without commensurates without commensurating achievements. Sorry, my bifocals are failing me at the moment. Um, they're
Would would thinking that you're an Egyptian god in a past life fall under this?
yes.
Mm,
Actually, I would also qualify that as a delusion of grandeur. I
right.
might even say yeah, that is a delusion of grandeur. But I might even say that that would fall under uh, perhaps a schizophrenic
No,
archetype, depending on how
okay.
far it goes.
Oh gosh,
But
that's a
again,
whole other.
without
Yeah.
doing a full assessment on someone and actually going through and doing a full intake and assessment and having a one-on-one with them and doing a full locus or Cassie,
Mhm.
depending on the age, right? And doing that full intake, um, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I
Mm.
can't tell you just based on one statement,
Oh no, just as an
right?
example, would something like that fall possibly in that space? Yeah. So,
Potentially, but grandiose sense of self-importance, or grandiose, you know, visions and whatnot can fall under so many different categories,
true,
right? So
true.
that's why you can't just
Or a sense of
assume it's one
entitlement
thing,
almost.
right? It's
Mhm.
there's a lot of that's why you have to meet so many criteria to get a diagnosis,
Right.
right?
So
So this
speaking of,
is
what are the others?
one of the nine. The second is a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. So if this person, they think they're so important, right? They have this fantasy that they're a powerful God, right? Okay, so that's two criteria just with that one delusion, right?
Okay.
Okay, so then the third one is believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. So
Hmm.
now, as an
That
example,
was
say,
kind of tricky, isn't it, though?
well, using the example you gave, now say this person that person believes that, they're a god, so they can only associate with other reincarnated gods. So they're only going to speak with people that are high priests and priestesses at temples. They're only going to seek out people that they believe are reincarnated gods and goddesses. They're not going to associate and affiliate with people that they think are less than
Hmm.
the people that they deem are special, people that they deem are on the same frequency,
Mm. Hmm.
then, they would meet that third criteria.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Criteria four requires excessive admiration, needs to be acknowledged constantly, have that ego stroked, choked, smacked around, pulled constantly. Everybody needs to tell them how great they are. Every little thing they do, they have to brag and tell everyone about it because they
Mm.
need everybody to know and they need everybody to tell them how great they are. Okay. So the fifth criteria is has a sense of entitlement. Okay. Well,
Right.
expectations, especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. They just expect that when they say jump, everyone's going to jump, even
Hmm.
if it's something stupid, even if it's unsafe, even if it's ridiculous, even if it's at the other person's peril. I
Hmm.
say jump, you're going to do it because I said so.
Tell me
Hmm.
that's not every teenager right now.
That is every teenager, but again, that's normal because that is a part of adolescence.
Right.
Correct.
And that's what you were saying is that's when the behavior really starts to show up is in the teenage years. It's just that when they have this disorder, they don't move past the teenage years.
Correct. It's
Hmm.
almost stunted. That
Mm-hmm.
development is almost stunted at that age. Yeah. So the sixth criteria is um, interpersonally exploitative. So they take advantage of others to achieve their own ends. And they'll do that by pretty much any means necessary: manipulation, coercion, um, manipulation. They'll
Or
lie.
manipulation. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Absolutely. They'll
Mm-hmm.
weaponize things against you. They'll weaponize your friends against you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll cause you to be isolated from people. And that's the big one. That's a big one that narcissistic abusers use, is isolation. They will meddle in your friendships, in your relationships with family, to isolate you from them, because you're easier to control when you are isolated.
Right. Right.
And I mean, we both know, we've both been in narcissistic abusive relationships
Mhm.
where we have been in that,
Correct. Mhm.
and we were isolated from people, right? I mean,
Right.
I was in that situation many years before you were. And when that behavior started with you and I saw that, I stepped in and said, absolutely not.
Yes. My
Um,
every waking hour was controlled by, or determined by this other person's mood and etc. But we'll get into that way later, some other
mhm,
point. So,
right.
what was the rest of
So,
the criteria?
the seventh criteria is lacks empathy. They're unrecognized
Mm-hmm.
needs of others. Their needs always come before anyone else's.
Mm-hmm. But
To
they
the
expect in infinite and the infinite empathy from you, though, which is
No,
interesting.
they just want infinite obedience.
Mm,
It's not even empathy. They just want obedience.
mm,
Their needs are important.
at all
Their
times.
need at all times. Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, the eighth
God forbid you
criteria,
say no.
right? The
Yeah.
eighth criteria is that they're envious of others or believes that others are envious of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
And that's a big one. They are always jealous. I mean, let's just put it at where it is. They're jealous of other people's success, or they think that other people are jealous of them.
Right. And then isn't it doesn't that when they create relationships, when they date, when they choose partners, that has a lot to do with it as well, as they tend to choose partners that actually have a lot to offer, and that they are envious of.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they pick out a partner that off.
Mm-hmm.
They pick partners that will heighten their status,
Mm-hmm.
that they can use to social climb all the time. Mhm.
Okay.
And the ninth criteria is they typically display arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Okay, so this is the actual diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, and you
Okay.
need a minimum of five of these criteria to
Mm-hmm.
receive this diagnosis, and they have to be persistent,
Mm-hmm.
pervasive, continual, all of the
Right.
time,
Right.
Constant. And
Right.
constant.
I really want to get across that although narcissism seems to be coming from a place of ego, it's not. It's not about ego. It's
Is
about
it like the
protecting a
anti-ego?
not even it's about protecting a fragile sense of self, right? So
Mm,
true
okay.
narcissism is a very fragile and instable and like built on instability, right? Their sense of self. So they're not going to have true strong views about who they are or what they are, right? So that's not like their self-confidence piece.
Mhm.
So clinical narcissism isn't built on strength. It's built on instability. People with narcissistic personality disorder operate from a sense of self-image that is fragile, inconsistent, and difficult to maintain with outside reinforcement. So that's where that exterior validation comes in. They
Mhm.
feel they truly need the exterior validation in order for them to feel fulfilled.
Okay, so do you think you guys can maybe provide some examples of maybe some things that might have happened earlier on in their lives that can trigger that kind of behavior?
That's a
Um,
really good question.
well, I mean, a lot of this manifests in early childhood, obviously. I mean, it can come
Right.
from childhood abuse. It can also come from not being held accountable in
Uh-huh.
childhood.
What about doting, being doted on too much, but then yelled
Being
at and then
right.
rewarded with materialism?
Not being held accountable for actions is one way to create this type of a
Mm-hmm.
personality. So if you have a um, say you have a child who um, is just a mischievous little kid and you never give them a consequence for their naughty behavior, right? And that behavior continues to escalate, and you just never give them a consequence, a reasonable social consequence. And those behaviors just continue to escalate, and you just keep making excuses after excuse after excuse, and they never receive a
Mm-hmm.
consequence for it. That will reinforce these narcissistic tendencies where they're just too good to receive a consequence and they can do whatever they want.
Right.
And they have this grandiose concept of self importance, and I'm untouchable and I can do whatever I want because I've never had a consequence before. My self esteem is out of control because I've never been punished,
Mm-hmm.
and that can cause these to blow up out of proportion. On the flip side, if you have a child who's continually abused, who is constantly being berated, and they have very, very low self esteem, and as they grow up, they kind of create this mask that they present to the world
Right.
that can also create these narcissistic traits as almost like a protection mechanism.
Okay. 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 But they're still in a position where they're presenting themselves as something that they are not because they feel a sense of shame
Right.
over who they were or what they've developed to be on the inside.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
they rely on others to regulate their self-esteem in a way that most people
Mm,
don't, right? So
Correct.
most of
right.
us don't need the exterior validation. So if a person, might feel disappointed by criticism, a person with MPD may experience it as a threat to their sense of identity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
So, what do you guys think about sorry, Dr. Lady, go ahead.
think about it this way. When you've witnessed this with me personally, when somebody says something negative to me or highly critical of me, and my response to them is, "Do you think I give a fuck about what your opinion is?"
Exactly.
And how does that impact me internally? Your criticism doesn't change my self-worth. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, right?
Hmm.
Correct.
Now, if I truly was a narcissist, that any form of criticism would curl me up into the fetal position and have me rocking back and forth, questioning my existence.
Yeah,
Okay, true, but a narcissist would never actually admit that they were affected.
no, you would take it personally. You would take it as a personal attack on your
Hmm.
character.
On your character.
Oh, sure,
And
yeah.
then from there start on the offense when there was never a need for offense in the first place because there was, you know what I
It,
mean? There was no attack.
right. It
Hmm.
just
So
wasn't that deep,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, and then
Oh my
we
gosh.
we get on our soapbox about being harassed and act as if we're a martyr
correct.
because someone made a comment that you disagreed with.
Oh, well, or, or if that person gets called out on their toxic and abusive behavior and publicly so, and then their response is to play victim and say, okay, well, that other person didn't love themselves. That's why they said these things about me. And that's moving into a whole like character assassination thing using flying monkeys and everything. Um, but it's interesting how they will find any way in which to deflect and twist everything around in order to make themselves appear to be a victim.
Absolutely. And I think that's first of all, that is a learned skill, right?
Yes,
Mm,
Again, stems from
always a
childhood.
victim.
We
Always.
learn, these are things we learn, we're not born with. So
correct.
it's
Hmm.
about a change of narrative for them, a change of narrative and making it seem, no, it might look blue from your angle, but if you just move over here, it's going to be orange.
Hmm.
Let me show you why it's orange, right? But it's it's honestly, it's kind of fascinating. I think it's fascinating the way they turn and can manipulate situations. And I mean, when you're in it, you don't realize it's happening, but when you're on the outside looking in, it's quite fascinating, to be completely honest.
Mm,
It's interesting from both ends, I think.
yes, yes.
Oh gosh. So do you guys want to talk about some of the little behaviors that tend to pop out with NPPD, like such as gaslighting, triangulation, that sort of thing? You guys want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I'll tap into a few just characteristics. So obviously, low
Okay.
self-esteem
Mm-hmm.
is one of the things that we see with people with NPD. Um, they obviously have a lot of inferiority issues. They're typically very vulnerable. They actually experience high levels of shame,
Yes.
and they try to mask that, but they do feel very high levels of shame. Um, they're also highly critical of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they will withdraw socially and often have a comorbidity with high anxiety or depressive disorders as well.
Right. Right.
Um, and they also exhibit lots of signs and symptoms of perfectionism. And that does also kind of cross over with the low self-esteem because they don't want to come off as being imperfect, right? Or showing their failures or vulnerabilities.
Right.
So um, that's those are some of the kind of, I mean, I don't know if you would call them qualities, but maybe just things to kind of look out for when you're seeing traits of a narcissist. They tend to have very specific patterns of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they also have, let's see, what is it? They have a lot of like challenges through life. They have a lot of crises, like bankruptcies,
Uh-huh.
lots of demotions at work, lots of losses of jobs, or divorces, like big high
Or
stress.
sporadic changes, maybe like sporadic changes in life changes due to
Hmm.
dissatisfaction
No
or disinterest.
dissatisfaction, yeah, or just poor money management skills, and
Mm-hmm.
just things of that nature. Where they're big life changing events,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they happen frequently.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's um,
What about the breadcrumbing Hoover cycle and devalue discard? What was there was like there was a very specific order in which all of those things happen.
Well, I think that with that, that isn't necessarily a specific pattern of behavior with narcissists. That's just kind of a
Mhm.
common alignment with them, and that would
Right,
be something that's more focused in relationships, and that would have to be a whole separate
right.
like a whole separate
Oh,
episode
that's true. I mean,
in
because you can also see
dating
that,
a narcissistic personality
yeah,
disordered
it's not
individual.
necessarily dating though, too. It's any kind of interpersonal
Like,
relationship that you might have with them, but also that those are
right.
also behaviors that you might get from, a dismissive avoidant, which isn't necessarily a narcissist, but also possibly somebody with borderline and that sort of thing.
Correct. Yeah, that would be
Hmm.
something that, like an intimate partner with a personality disorder, how they operate. That would have to be a whole separate thing
Okay. Yeah, we
for
could
an
I
talk about
think,
intimate.
that another time.
yeah, I think though, kind of shifting here is when we're dealing with, an individual who has NPD in our lives, I think it's so important to not to understand that it's not about us, it's about them. If you strip everything else away, MPD is built around a deep, pervasive sense of shame, a
Yes.
belief that being truly known will lead to rejection or humiliation.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that being said, that leads into my next question, which is okay, so two different aspects to this. One, if you suspect that you're a narcissist yourself, what are some things that you could do to cope with that? How would you seek out therapy? But also the next question would also be like, if you're somebody who is dealing with somebody who has these behaviors, who has this personality disorder, what is it that you can do to protect yourself and still hold space for what you know that they're also going through?
So, first things first, if you really truly believe that you yourself are a narcissist, your best
Probably not.
option, probably not, yeah, realistically. But let me just throw out this statistic for you. Um, 50 to 75% of people with a NPD diagnosis are men. Okay,
That's pretty big.
that is a big number.
Yeah.
So let's start there. But eh, eh, so women are much less diagnosis to begin with. But if you
Mhm.
do believe that you have that diagnosis, your first step is to go to a psychologist and have them do an assessment.
Right.
Because you may think you have NPD, but you may not even have a personality disorder. You may just have depression.
Right, right. I know not too long ago I made you give me all of the tests. It was
Yes,
MPD, it was like sociopathy, it was like a couple other things.
psychopathy, borderline
Psychopathy.
personality disorder. We went through all of them, and
Hmm.
I told you where you were going to test, what you were going to test, and how high you were going to test,
You
and
did. You called every single bit.
you tested slightly higher than average as a sociopath, which is normal given your life experience.
That's fair. That's fair.
And
But it was fun. I was real pushy about it, Dr. B.
yeah, yeah, it was
That's
annoying.
good. You guys are so funny.
It was super annoying because she was trying to convince me that she had NPD and I almost threw her out a window. It was really annoying.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
Dr. Lady called me about that. We had a whole conversation.
hmm
Uh,
hmm
Like
she phoned a
this
friend.
hoe will not give it up.
yeah, yeah, I
She
phoned a
phoned a
friend.
friend.
hmm
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so I think
Well,
it's important to, you said something earlier, hold space, right? And I think that's
yes.
so important because
Yeah.
honestly, first of all, they're just like everybody else, right? They long for connection. They want, they want to be loved. They want to give love, but it's the fear of vulnerability, the fear of the unknown. They fear if they do that, they will not be accepted, right?
Right.
So I think having honest conversations with, if this is somebody in your life, a friend or a coworker, is finding a way to communicate with them that doesn't give them an easy out,
Hmm.
right? An easy way
That's a toughie.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, to flip the script is being so intentional about what you say and how you say it. Because you may think the way you and I communicate, like, so easy, right? We get it. But you
Right. Right.
communicate with somebody else and they're not understanding what you're saying, or they hear something different,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So coming at it from that perspective and really being intentional about what you say, how you say it.
Yeah.
And
They say
also,
ultimately, if you can't get through, then no contact is really the best thing for you, like as a survivor.
Well, do it. I mean, at the end of the day, do what's best for you. But I mean, like, if you work with this person, right? You see them every
Right.
day. You can't
Right.
you can't get away from them, right?
Right. So then you have
So,
to maneuver around it.
correct. And unfortunately, as much as it sucks to say, but that's now a you problem because you work with them, right? Um,
Hmm.
I think finding a way to keep it as, you know, simple and as basic as possible with them, right? Not necessarily get too personal, not necessarily give too much detail, just be
Hmm.
specific and to the point. Now, if this is a partner, then at the end of the day, if you got to do what's best for you. So if leaving
Always.
is best for you, then that's what's best for you. And nobody can say nothing about that.
That's
and
true. That's very true.
and I do want to throw this in here because I think going back to the low self-worth, and a lot of people don't realize this with NPD as well, is that people with true NPD also have a higher likelihood of a higher lethality rate when attempting suicide. They're not
Mm,
impulsive in their suicide attempts.
no.
They tend to be more meticulous and more successful.
Interesting. Well, they put a lot of thought into it.
Correct. And
Right.
so, the way you speak and criticize does matter.
Mm,
And again, being open with them when you're speaking to them, and letting them know that you're not coming from a place of harm. You're not trying to tear them down. Um, you don't view them as a failure. You don't see their imperfections as a reflection of who they are matters, because they do tend to have higher suicidal ideation rates, and
mm,
they do tend to be more successful if they go down that road.
okay. All right, ladies. Well, we are down to the last minute. I really appreciate you guys coming onto the show and explaining this personality disorder in detail. Are there any last little bits, little thoughts that you can give to our viewers prior to us ending this session?
Don't diagnose yourself. Don't use TikTok to diagnose yourself. Go to a mental
Hmm.
health professional that is qualified to diagnose you. I'm not qualified to diagnose you. I'm qualified to read a book and tell you what the book says.
Right.
Exactly. Don't go and follow the trends and start throwing terms out there because, first of all, let's not, that's starting stigmas, and let's not do that.
We don't want
We're,
to do that.
yeah, we're not here to start calling everybody something that they're not. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, for the love of God, fact check whatever you read, whatever you see, doubt the things that you see, especially now with AI. I think you can't really know what's real, what's
What's
not.
real? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's so important. to have a little bit of curiosity and find these things out for yourself, especially if you're going to attempt to throw the term around. I always tell my kids,
Right.
you can't say words you don't understand what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like
That's fair.
triggered,
Well, we
that's
do
their
a
new
lot of
favorite
that.
word.
Triggered?
Triggered, that's their new favorite word. I'm triggered. You don't even know what that means. You are too young to be triggered by anything.
Oh, it's such a fun word.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's, I think that's what sparked this entire series now is just because you and I were spending time together, and it was a TikTok video, and I just about lost my mind because the person was saying, "Oh, well, if you do this, you're a narcissist." And I was like,
And they weren't
"No."
even related, right?
Yeah, I was like, you
Yeah.
absolutely are not a narcissist for that. Those things are they don't it doesn't compute. You're just some random white bitch online who is making shit up to make yourself feel better. Like, no, that's not how any of this works. Where is your
Mhm.
credentials to sit here and diagnose the masses on TikTok?
Right.
Stop
And I'm
it.
pretty sure she didn't offer any kind of any links, external links or resources to back up anything she had to say.
Right. And you're just making a broad generalization about things that most people from time to time, day to day, will experience as a normal, well-adjusted human being. You're going to feel jealous from time to time. That is a part of being a human. You're
Right.
going to feel envy. You're going to feel shame. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel important and have this huge ego boost from time to time. That is normal. That that isn't anything that's out of the ordinary unless
Hmm.
it is a consistent, persistent, chronic, every single day issue that is five or more of the nine qualifying behaviors. And that video was getting real up my ass because she was making it seem like if you have any one of these characteristics and at any time in your life for 5 seconds, you're a narcissist. And that
Yeah,
just isn't true.
yeah, I definitely think that speaks to uh, uh, how important it is in general, not even just with something like narcissistic personality disorder, but in general in our lives, the fallacy of speaking in absolutes.
Hmm. It's problematic, and that's
Very
why I lost my temper about it and was like, no, I'm not doing this. We need to correct this narrative.
Yeah, we
right.
can't generalize something like this. We can't really generalize everything or anything really, because, the human experience is so personal,
Oh,
for one.
yes, very nuanced, right?
Yes, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and then there's just so many ways our lives can go, and there's so many paths. And I think that as human beings, we need to be more curious with each other and even ourselves. Because a lot of people, you'd be surprised, they don't even know themselves. They can't realize when they're experiencing anxiety. They can't
Mm,
realize when they're experiencing depression, right?
right, right.
They
Not
they
everyone
are
is
not
very self-aware like that.
self-aware. Yeah.
Right.
I think we lack currently in society, we lack a lot of self-awareness. And we like to
That's
do what to
unfortunate.
try and be. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that we're going to accomplish with these podcasts is that we can get some accurate information out there, we can get some resources out there and get people not only aware of others but aware of ourselves because we cannot fix our behaviors without that self-awareness. But, self-awareness is really just the first step. I mean, because then you have to work on actually changing the behaviors.
Yeah, self-awareness is scary, you know.
I know.
Truly understanding yourself is terrifying because at the end of the day, like that's who you stay with. is you.
Yeah. Well, that's like you having to hold yourself accountable. How scary is that?
It's terrifying.
Oh
Absolutely.
my
And then
gosh.
trying to navigate the world and, getting to know other people and understanding other people and having empathy for others is very difficult because we can paint somebody with NPD as a bad guy, right? We can paint
Mhm.
them as a terrible human being. We can paint them as a monster. And sure, they have done shitty things. Absolutely. Will they continue to do? Probably.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not
Right.
necessarily fair to say, everybody with NPD is just shitty or they're assholes or they're struggling just like everybody else is. They're just not aware of it.
Yeah. Some of the there are some influencers that I've watched on some socials and whatnot that are actually diagnosed with MPD, and they are self-aware, they're diagnosed, they're in therapy. And a lot of those particular people are trying to just kind of like raise awareness, just because they are, there's some I've seen where I feel like they're not really like doing it very well in terms of getting accurate information out there. They're just kind of talking because they like to talk because they're a narcissist. But
Mhm.
there's a couple of other ones out there that are really trying to do the good work. And I feel like that helps them heal themselves as much as it gets the information out for others in order to be informed.
Absolutely. I
Hmm.
think just
So I
starting,
appreciate them a lot.
yeah, I think just starting the conversation, and this was obviously not even an in-depth conversation. This was a very surface, right?
All right. This
Getting
is the
just
tip of the iceberg.
correct.
So,
And I think
mhm.
that, again, curiosity, and I hope that people are curious enough to continue to look into things that's, pique their interest.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and we'll call it on that. And so, which personality disorder or mental health issue do you guys think that you want to tackle next time?
Ooh, I'd love to get into either BPD or histrionic personality disorder.
Mm, I think that would be a good follow-up to NPD because they can be a comorbid. They can be comorbid with one another, right?
Yeah, well,
Um,
yeah,
to some
all
degree. Yeah.
personality disorders can hold
Okay.
comorbidities with one another.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think, Dr. B?
I think, would you say BPD?
Yeah, borderline personality disorder or
I think that's a
histrionic.
really, I think that's a really good one. Somebody in my
Yeah,
life
that'd
just
be a
got
good follow-up.
diagnosed with that.
Okay, we can do that one. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do
That's
that
really
one
interesting.
next.
Yeah,
Okay.
All
BPD.
right, perfect.
Oh, all righty. And
Well, ladies,
don't forget to include our little musical rendition.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna
please.
end we're gonna end this episode with the theme song. So all of you guys stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for being on the show again. And then I appreciate you both. We're gonna go ahead and conclude the show today. But everybody stay tuned for our next installment of the mental health and psychology segment of Psycho Sexy Seance. I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank
Hi.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Grand ideas shining bright. I'm the best both day and night. Craving praise like it's a must, and struggle seeing others trust. If five or more of these appear, NPD might be something near. It's grandiosity, admiration, low empathy. That's the pattern you may see when the traits don't bend and they show again and again. That's narcissistic personality. Thinks they're special, truly rare, only top tier folks compare. Dreams of power, perfect fame, and needing others to praise their name. Entitled steps in every place, expecting life to give them grace. May use people for their goal, not noticing another soul. It's grandiosity, admiration, low empathy. That's the pattern you may see when the traits don't bend and they show again and again. That's narcissistic personality. Envy flies both ways, it's true. I want what you have. relationships tend so wild. Inside, the confidence may shake. Criticism feels like a quake. Shame and fear can hide beneath the shiny armor or the teeth. It's grandiosity, admiration, low empathy, long-term traits across life scenes. When the signs persist and they're causing strain,